Oh, my son is teething and he's drooled all over my shirt. Oh my gosh. No. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be filming a reaction video. So I did actually do a poll on my Instagram and I did a poll on my YouTube community page to check that you guys were okay with reaction videos. But I did say that I would predominantly only cover Hermes. Like, I'm just saying that now, like, my focus will be Hermes. I'm going to be filming a reaction video to Lvlovercc. She is actually someone that I follow on YouTube. I do watch her videos. So any reaction videos that I do, these are going to be people that I actually legitimately watch on YouTube and I enjoy their content. So I'm not going to be throwing any shade whatsoever. I'm definitely not dissing them in any way, and I'm not shading their opinions and their experiences. That's not what I'm going to be doing. I'm just going to be filming my kind of reaction, my take, and my insights, because like I said, it's just going to be videos that are kind of, you know, raise some questions somewhat. So this is the Lvlovercc video that she filmed on her Hermes Birkin. She returned it, so it's called Hermes Birkin Returning Story plus Reveal. We're not going to really worry about the reveal portion of this video because that's not something that I really need to film in a reaction on, but I'm going to be focusing on the return aspect because there is some interesting stuff in this video. So if you haven't actually seen this video from Lvlovercc, I definitely recommend that you do go ahead and watch it. So I'm going to link her link to this video down below. So before I dive into the reaction video, if you aren't already subscribed to my channel and you do love luxury videos, especially if you love Hermes, I would love if you would subscribe to my channel by hitting that subscribe button down below, and also the bell so you can be notified when I upload new videos, which is twice a week on a Wednesday and on a weekend. So, okay, let's dive right into this. I have not filmed a reaction video before, so how am I going to do this? This is going to be interesting.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. If you see the title, or actually I don't really know what title will fit into this video the best. Yeah. So I ended up returning the Birkin that I got directly from the H store, Hermes, in Dallas. Why? I actually filmed an entire video to explain and why I ended up returning. So I will add that video right here for you guys.
So yeah, obviously you should go ahead and watch her her vlog where she actually scored the bag, so that way you can get a bit of a backstory and it can all make a little bit more sense. I have already seen that video, so of course when I'm not going to do a reaction to that, I have already seen it and I do already sort of know the backstory. I think she kind of covers it a little bit in this video.
To get the Birkin, it is very hard, but to get the Birkin that has the flaw is really hard also, that I heard from my friend. Please bear with me if I am looking like I don't know, tired or sad in this video, but I'm just, you know, wanting to talk to you guys what happened and why I returned and how it, you know, I mean, you know, like, if you're familiar with Hermes and Birkin and Kelly, you know that they don't let you return, or they will exchange or give store credit if there is any problem with the bag.
With Hermes, yeah, you can't get a refund for anything, unfortunately. That's kind of the crappy policy that they have. Like, Louis Vuitton does do refunds, but Hermes does not. You can only do an exchange or get a store credit. So that is a downfall. I actually know someone who did do a store credit on a offer that they took. So you can actually do it, you know, but there are definitely, I wouldn't say risks per se, but it does leave a lot of money up in the air. So it's not exactly something that is advisable to do.
I don't know. It's like so hard to say because it's heartbreaking for me, and it took like 2 years, I think I would say, for me to get the Birkin, and it was so amazing that the SA, who I never met before, offered the Birkin, especially the color that I've been wanting. I had 3 different color selections that would have been on my wish list. You guys don't know, black, gold, and red, but gold is the one that I got offered. And yeah, I don't even have the bag, so I cannot show you guys, but if you watch my unboxing, you know what I'm talking about. And it was the gold on gold, so it was beautiful. At least I got to try and see the real bag. I've never seen actually before. Got offered. So
some people might think that, based on what she's saying, that she's never met the SA before. She's waited 2 years to get a bag, and now she finally got one. It would kind of, like, some people might cause concern, like question for that, and be like, well, they offered you a bag even though you've never met them before. But you know what? It actually does happen. There are people that will shop on the day and they will get offered a bag, and it really is just a matter of luck. It's a matter of like timing. If you happen to go to the store when someone's, usually this is the case, usually someone has already knocked back a bag, and this essay is like, well, the other client knocked back a bag, this person's spending some money, I might be able to offer them this bag and they may be happy, and then they'll continue to shop with me. That does actually happen. So there are instances, yeah, where you've never met the sales associate before, you haven't built a profile with them, and you do get an offer. It does happen. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. And just because it does, it doesn't mean that it's anything suspicious.
Amazing. But the part that concerned me and bothered me a lot is the front part. I will insert the picture here, why and what the parts that...
This is interesting, but also has an explanation. I'm just going to continue to play just so we can see some more information, like see some more images, and we can also see more of what she has to say about it, and then I can kind of explain.
That bothered me, it's the white color. Looks like the leather color gold was not dye enough on that part and looked really dry, and it looked almost like cracking, but it was not exactly cracks.
Now, she actually just said right then that it's not exactly cracks, which is what I agree with. They are not cracks.
I got to contact many of my friends who own Birkin and Kelly, especially those who have the color gold. I was asking around, and thank you so much, guys. I cannot even name everyone as I asked so many. I wanted to be really thorough and be really before I do anything. Like, you know, returning was like heartbreaking, and I wasn't even sure how to really talk to the SA about it.
How do you talk to the SA about something like that?
They thought that it is kind of minor if you're thinking of the Birkin, the whole picture of it, the whole back of it. It's really minor, that section. But for the price of the bag you're paying for, I mean, if you don't really care, maybe it doesn't matter, but I don't know. For me, you guys know how picky I am on top of that, but for Birkin, it had to be perfect. It had to be 100%, even 120% had to be perfect.
I understand where she's coming from in this. With the amount that you spend, you really should be happy with what you're buying. There's definitely no doubt about that. I would say with any luxury purchase, because it is luxury for a reason, it's not a necessity, and yet you should be happy with your purchase. And quite obviously she wasn't, so I do understand her reasoning behind it. I do understand why she felt the need to return, because she wasn't happy. And that's really the key point here, is that she wasn't happy with what she actually got.
I know some of you guys will judge me or say something like, oh, it's Birkin, you should just get it. I know you may say that, I know that, but I thought of it also. When I saw it, I was kept ignoring actually my eyes, like, no, I didn't see it. No, it's normal. It's maybe typical thing. Maybe it's wear and tear already getting from opening the parts. Kept telling myself, don't even be bothered, because you don't want to go through that, you know, exchanging or return. I don't think exchange will happen with that combination, but I don't think they offer the exchange. Sorry guys, I'm rambling, I know, bear with me. I just wanted to tell you guys, if you guys have this experience.
Now, with what she's saying, that some people would say that it's a Birkin, you should just take it, I actually tend to agree with that, because given, I'm gonna say the word fault, but it's not technically a fault. There is an aspect of it that is uncommon. There is an aspect of what is with her Birkin 30 gold that is uncommon, but it's not actually a fault what has caused it to kind of occur. I would say she probably should have just kept it. But the thing is because it's a catch-22. In her mind, she would have been like, there's something wrong with this bag. So she probably would never really be pleased with it being in the cupboard. And you can't change someone's mentality like that. If that's how someone was thinking, then that's how someone was thinking. You can't discredit that. You can't say that, no, she has no right to feel that way, because she definitely had a right to feel that way. She had a right to feel that she wasn't completely pleased with her purchase. But the other part of me, why I tend to agree was somewhat that people might say you should have just kept it, it's a Birkin. The reason I say that is because that bag could have actually had been repaired at a spa. No, she shouldn't have to go and get it repaired to get it to like perfect standards that she would kind of want. She shouldn't have to, in a nutshell. But if her mentality was different, if she was kind of like, you know what, I really just wanted to score a Birkin from the store, I've scored it, I'm happy. These things, they don't bother me for now. It'll be fine, I'll just deal with it as is for now and I'll get it fixed later. If she had that mentality, then it would totally have been fine should she have kept the bag. That's the mentality that she would have actually needed in order to actually keep the bag. But because she didn't have that mentality, because she was dissatisfied and unpleased and it was a lot of money, then you can't take that away from her. That's how she felt. She's entitled to her feelings. She's entitled to feel that way, and I can't blame her for feeling that way. If I was in this situation, I'm going to turn and flip it around, put the shoe on the other foot and say, if I was in this situation and it was my first score from the store, me having already knowledge of Hermes and the spa, I had knowledge of Hermes before I ever scored my first bag. I was buying Hermes before I scored my first bag from the store. So I knew already a lot about the house. For me, that wouldn't have bothered me because I know A, the reasoning behind why that has occurred in the actual leather, and B, I know that it's a very easy fix at the spa and I may as well just use the bag, love the bag, and then later on when it goes for a spa, I just tell the sales associate that this is the thing that I noticed with the bag, like it's got some white lines in the actual veining. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more. There's some white lines in the veinings in certain areas. Can you just make a note that I want the artisan to ensure that those areas where there is some white in between the veining is touched up. That is what my mentality would have been, is that I would have thought that this is an easy fix anyway. What's the point of crying over spilled milk when this is something that can actually be fixed, and it is so hard to score a bag from the store anyway. And if I were to score a gold on gold Birkin 30 generally is a very hard bag to score in Togo. It always sells for a premium in the resale market because it is extremely desirable. That settling with that slight little issue, which isn't actually a defect, it's not exactly a defect per se, I just feel like she should have probably kept the bag and just had that mentality to just get it sparred, because it would, later on she would use the bag and it's going to need a spar anyway, and that is completely an easy fix. All that was an easy fix. It is not cracked leather. There was nothing actually wrong with the leather.
Who own Birkin and Kelly, who I sent pictures, everyone told me it's not right. It is not right. Their Birkin, their gold color, their Kelly, or that leather, Togo leather, it shouldn't have that, especially brand new, getting from the store. Even the one, hi girl, you know who I'm talking about. She sent me pictures of her Birkin, gold, exactly the same, just different size. She had that bag for 7 years and more. She doesn't have anything like that, what I had with the bag that I had, the white color.
Okay, so I stopped the video here because she's talking about the Birkin that her friend, subscriber sent her pictures of, and it was a Birkin in a different size. It was also Togo leather, but the key word here is that she had that bag for 7 years. So I'm assuming that the bag is 7 years old. based on what she's saying. It could even be older, but it's at least 7 years old. And there's something I want to point out. If you actually look at the grain of this leather, you will see that that Togo leather is actually flatter. It is actually a flatter grain. And the thing with Togo is that it does actually vary. It does vary in the grains. It is not always the same. So it's not like, say, with Swift leather. Swift is a smooth leather. You know what? Let me just go get my Birkin and Kelly so I can make a little bit more sense visually. Okay, I got my bags. All right, so like I was saying, so it's not like with Swift where it's a smooth leather. You see Swift, it has no grain whatsoever. It is totally smooth. It doesn't have any kind of prominent grain to it. Togo, on the other hand, does have a prominent grain. So if that's focusing in, you see that? You see how it's got these bumps to it? That's the grain, obviously, duh. That's the prominent grain that Togo has. My Birkin doesn't have any veining, but Togo can have actually veining through it. And my Togo actually has pretty flattish, sort of flattish sort of grains to it. Not as flat as the lady that has sent pictures to Lvlovercc, but my Togo is somewhat flattish. Now this bag, this Birkin that's 7 years old, it's quite obvious that the Togo grains on this are more flat. I can definitely tell that. And that does actually make a difference to how the leather actually behaves. So even though she's comparing her bag to a bag that's 7 years old, over time, grains do start to flatten down. It could have been a little bit more prominent before, but they don't really flatten down all too much, generally speaking. They don't go flat like a pancake. They don't go flat like Swift leather, but they can just smooth out, just slightly. They can smooth out over a period of time. But the key word here is that, well, the key words is that Togo grains do vary. They do vary per cut of the calf. They vary. They're not always the same kind of grain. They can be more prominent. They can be more prominent, like more prominent than this is. They can be more smooth, like how this is, and then they can be like this, which is also kind of a relatively smooth grain. And that will actually change kind of how the leather will behave when it's been cut. Yeah, when it's been cut. So the cut of this actual leather of the other bag that her friend has sent her, because it's a flatter grain, and the cut means that it end up with edging being smoother because the grain is already smoother. The grain is less prominent. It is a smoother grain. So it does get hard to kind of explain, but think of it this way, all right? If you have a crimped piece of paper, so a crimped kind of piece of paper, and you cut it, you will see the crimping on the edges, right? You see that crimp like zigzag. If you had a piece of paper that, say, was flat and you cut it, then you're gonna always see flat, right? So with this kind of leather, because the grain is more flatter, it gets a cleaner cut on where the leather is cut to be glazed on either edge. And that is why this bag doesn't have the issue that Lvlovercc's Birkin had. And it's not an issue, it's just to do with the actual grain. There is a component to what is an issue, somewhat, but this is how it's kind of come about. This is how it's come about, is to do with the prominence of the Togo grain.
Returning, I knew the policy is not returning, it's like exchange or getting store credit. And the essay was like telling me I can send it back to him, he will credit it back. So I was like, are you talking about store credit? And he said, he was telling me, I don't like store credit laying around my store or something like that. But anyways, it could, you know, I mean, I could get it in a different way, but he didn't really sound, you know, that nice.
She was really just talking about the sales associate's reaction. I do tend to agree that the reaction probably wasn't appropriate. I think that the sales associate probably could have been a little bit more empathetic, because she did have a point that it didn't look typical. It didn't look typical of what you would expect from an Hermes Birkin. That it didn't look typical. I would say that him saying that there's not a problem with the bag has some warrant to it, because it wasn't exactly like there was a quality problem to the bag. It wasn't that, but he could have at least explained why he's saying that there's not a problem. That is the issue, is that he didn't even bother to explain why he's saying that there isn't a problem with the bag, when clearly there's something that she's pointing out. She obviously was pointing it out in the pictures what the issue was, you know, where she sees those white lines and they kind of look like cracks. If he really believed that there wasn't a problem, he should have at least explained what she was seeing.
Maybe I would have kept the one that I got, because it was very hard to get that combination, and yeah, just never happens, right? Like just walking into the one store and they offer me the same one that I've been wanting, which it seems like that whole two leather, you know, that going through had issue all around it. All edges were cracked, like the leathers were like white cast like look, and really dry, you can tell. But when you're looking at it far away, you cannot tell. So of course people, you know, you could sell, and I didn't see it, and I didn't expect that Birkin will have any issue, of course, right? Yeah, so yeah, it was fine until I saw that. I got closer and I was like enjoying, like looking at the details all over the bag, and then I saw it and I was like going all around. I was like, wait a minute, what is this, and is this normal?
So she's saying that that entire leather sangle, like all the way around, she's saying that this piece of leather all the way around the bag that joins at the back and on either side, she's saying that it was dry. That could actually be in how it actually felt. So like, because obviously I didn't physically have the bag, like it is plausible, but it is a bit strange, considering it's not really, I don't think that where she got it from is in the kind of climate where it would probably, that would have happened in such a short period of time. Dryness in leather tends to happen when the bag is sort of been sitting in a humid climate and being exposed to hot, cold, like fluctuating climate. Would only kind of be if the bag had been exposed to that for a long period. And given that I don't think the bag would have been sitting on the shelf for a long time,
it didn't have anywhere except that part. So I even thought that I was gonna repair that part, because I don't know if I will get offered again in my lifetime. So yeah, kind of stupid, right? I know. I just wanted to be honest with you guys here, and I was gonna repair, and I asked that SA and he said no, they don't repair that. I was like saying there's no wrong, nothing wrong, it's Birkin, it is a Birkin, like nothing wrong, we don't sell that, I guess, you know. But yeah, all of the ones who have the Birkin and have that color especially, send me pictures and say,
well, I'm gonna stop that there, because she's just talking about the other people that have sent pictures again. So but I definitely want to address the part that like what she said is that she thought about just getting this whole thing repaired, and that's what I was saying, is that just, you know, just take, I personally would just take the bag, because I know that for me, I knew that what would have potentially have caused that. I could kind of explain what happened, so that's different for me. But even for someone who doesn't know, I would just be like, yeah, take it, because you can just get it repaired anyway. But for that sales associate to say, no, we don't repair that, that is very, very strange, because he is wrong. That's not right. They would actually repair that. But what I'm thinking is that unless he's saying that, it could be one of two things. He could be saying that because what Hermes wouldn't do, they wouldn't just, they wouldn't take the bag and just replace this leather tab. They wouldn't really go ahead and do that for such a minor issue, and that might be what he thought she was asking, to actually completely replace the leather sangles. Like maybe that's what he thought, and that's what he was answering that no, we're not going to just, Hermes isn't not going to take out the leather sangles and change them over, you know. Or he's saying that response as Hermes is not going to foot the cost of doing that repair because there's nothing wrong with the bag. Maybe that's his opinion, he's saying that. I feel like his response is incorrect, the way he's going about it. But again, this is secondhand information. She's saying what she has experienced. We are not actually hearing exactly from him, his side, and we're not seeing the conversation or hearing literally from him. So we're only getting secondhand information from her. But I'm just, you know, want to be fair to both parties, be fair to her, be fair to him. So in a case of spa, if they were actually to just repair that, they would just literally color touch that up. They would clean it. So if it was actually the reason that white was coming to the surface was because of fat coming to the surface, then that would actually be gone with leather conditioning and cleaning, and that could have explained what that white cast was the fat coming to the surface. And that usually typically happens in hot, humid conditions, that the fat will come to the surface. If that wasn't the reasoning, and it was literally a case of the dye that they put into the leather, the gold, wasn't deposited correctly on that leather, and when they cut it, that's what caused color to flake away. If that was the case, they would just color touch that up, and that would be quite an easy thing to do anyway. And then they would probably just, they might need to reglaze that as well. So yeah, that would have been an easy fix at the spa. So she could have done that. Spa is actually not that expensive, but that's what I would say, is just use the bag, enjoy the bag, and then later on get that fixed, because you really wouldn't be able to notice it. If you look 30 centimeters away, you wouldn't notice it.
Here, no, it doesn't look like that. It does not do that. And the one I want to thank a lot is Sabina. Hi, lovely. She helped me the most, as she is the authenticator, and she really has gone through many Kelly and Birkin. And that color she knew, and she said she has never seen a Birkin that had that color, like white color, cracks around it. And the ones that she has dealt with, they are all used, which means they should have more wear and tear, right? But this Birkin, the one that I got, is directly from the store, and I paid the full price, right? But it had the issue, so she was actually shocked, and she was telling me like why, you know, she has never seen it like that on Togo leather.
So in this part, she was talking about Sabina, who's actually a professional authenticator. I do follow Sabina on Instagram, and she is very good at what she does. And Sabina had said to Lvlovercc that it's not right, she has never seen this before. To be fair, it is definitely not something that you see often. You really do not see what happened with this Birkin often, but it does happen. It does exist, and in some aspects it is not a fault. In other aspects it kind of is. If it is a case of color not being deposited correctly, that would be technically a fault. It's tricky, because I don't want to say that the bag was flawless and it had the right to pass quality control, because I don't know the real, like literally seeing it from the get-go. It may not have, that white that was in the lines of the leather may not have actually been there when it was passed for quality control, and it could be very well a case of fat coming to the surface after the fact when it had landed in that boutique, especially if it was in a humid climate. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that Lvlovercc usually shops, I think, in Texas, which is very hot and humid. If I'm not mistaken, because Texas is quite known to be a tourist location, and it is a very, very hot and humid location. So it could very well that the fat did come to the surface, and that's what caused that white cast to kind of happen. It's predominantly in between the grains, because in between the grains is where the barest part of the leather actually is, and then the grain itself is the thicker part of the leather. If we kind of imagine, how do I kind of say this? So, and it looks like I'm holding boobs right now. So if we would imagine that this part, my knuckles, are the actual grains, and in here where my nails are meeting is the crevice of the grain. This crevice is the thinnest part of the leather, and then my knuckles is the thicker part, because the knuckle part is where it protrudes, that's the grain. Where my, so you can hear my son, where my nails go down, that's where it's the thinner part, because obviously it's not the protruded part. And obviously if fat comes to the surface, it's gonna come through the cracks first, and it's not really, doesn't always tend to get to the grain. So Sabina is not wrong in saying that she has never seen this before, because it's not exactly something that you typically see, and especially if she mostly is doing authentications for the US, for US clients. If she's not really got much of an Asian, Singapore, Malaysian client base, she may not really see it that often. So because in the US it's not as like bad as what it can be in Singapore, and the humidity and stuff like that. So she is fair in saying that. I don't think that she's like, I'm not saying that like, because I know that there is a bit of a differentiation with the understanding of what's wrong with this Birkin, that's not saying that what Sabina's saying is wrong, because I still think what Sabina said is right.
Yeah, anyways, I don't want to put anybody down or the store or anything like that, but it is just from my heart and true feeling. I just wanted to say that Birkin that they offered me was more loosened up, and you could just tell that it was like loosened up, like relaxed, and this one was also loosened up and relaxed, like falling downward, whereas this one is still standing upward. And the subby who sold me this, she wore, I think she said, was that 1 or 2 times, so it is like brand new, and to me it's more brand new than the one that I got from the store. I cannot believe, I know, like.
So this is her reveal of she ended up buying a bag from a subby. So she ended up getting the bag exactly what she wanted, and she's much more happy with how this actually looks. But I just want to address the part that she said that that the bag felt very loosened up and the sangles were dropping, whereas the bag that she's got, it's staying upright. Now, Togo can vary in stiffness. You can get really stiff Togo that kind of stands very upright, holds its shape for quite a long time, and it takes a lot of use and wear for it to start slouching. But then you can get Togo that from the get-go is actually already more soft and supple. I wouldn't say soft and supple in contrast to like how like Swift is buttery soft, but it's just got a bit more give. It's not so super firm. And that's the same thing even with Clemence. Clemence is the same. You can get really stiff Clemence that holds its shape and holds upright for many years. Whereas Clemence, typical nature is that it slouches. So even Clemence can have some leathers that will be firm, and it's the same thing with Togo. So I've pulled up all the photos of like the bag that she returned, the bag that her friend showed her, and at the end of the video you can see the bag that she just revealed. And based on what I can see, but I can't be 100% sure, but it does look, I can definitely tell between her friend's bag and the bag that she returned that 100% the grains on the bag that she returned are far more prominent than what the grains are of her friend's bag. So the reasoning behind why I feel as though this has actually happened with this bag that she's returned. Firstly, I can say that it is not uncommon to see what looks like cracks, and it is because of the size of the grain of this particular Togo. But when they cut that kind of fatter grain, that is what kind of looks like cracks, but it's not actually cracks. It's actually just the lines of the veins, and the lines of the veins become more prominent in contrast. The lines between the grains become more prominent in contrast to the grain, and that's why they look like cracks. And this is not something that is uncommon. It does happen, but there is even a thread on the Purseforum, which I'm going to link as well, and someone pointed out that they thought that their bag had cracks on it. But it is exactly a case of what I'm saying is that, and other people have said this too, is what it is actually just the lines of where the grain in between the grains, and they look like cracks, but they're not. The lines in between the grains, there isn't any white coming through. And that could actually be to do with the color. Her color is red and it's not gold. Now, why I think that this has happened with the gold Birkin, it could be 2 reasons. So I've already explained to you that they're not cracks. It is, but with the gold Birkin 30, it could actually very well be a case that with the color that they've dyed, like the gold color on that leather, it could have been that when they cut it, the gold color could have kind of wore off in those lines in between the grains. That could have been what happened. The other thing that could be is that it is fat coming to the surface. And like I said, what I was explaining before is that it would always come through in the thinner part. It always comes through between the grains rather than on the actual bulge of the grain. And you see this more with bags that are in humid climates. And what happens also as well, when they are doing these saddles, when they're doing the saddle stitch near the edge, they kind of have to stretch the leather in a way as well. To do the saddle stitch, you have to pull the leather taut. You have to pull it quite taut to actually do the saddle stitch, which is in a way kind of like stretching the leather, pulling it taut. And pulling it taut does create a bit of a stretch in between each of those grains, just on the edge, that tautness, and then the stitch holds that tautness kind of in place. Now, like I said with my bag, I don't actually have that, but I do in fact have what they might look like to be cracks, but they're not actually cracks. I have that, and I'll take a close-up picture so you can actually see. But I don't have any white cast in between those cracks at all. And I only have it in some parts. Yeah, I have it too. It is absolutely no problem whatsoever. It is not cracks. It is just where they're cut through the grain. But that white, I can definitely see what she's referring to with that white. And it does look to me like it's just fat that's come to the surface. That's the way it looks. And it might have just come off with leather conditioner. However, it could also have been that because they've pulled it taut, and if they haven't sufficiently colored that leather with the color gold, that it could actually be that that tautness is created somewhat a bit of a transparency in the thinnest part of the leather where it's pulled taut. The grain gets a little bit spread out, a little bit more than what it would be in the center part, just on the edges there. And yeah, essentially it looks to me like it's just a bit of the stretched leather, which happens on the edging when they're pulling it taut to do their saddle stitch, and the fat has likely come to the surface. Or it could be the worst case scenario where they haven't put enough color deposit into the actual leather. So when they did pull it taut, some transparency has kind of sort of come through. You know, it's kind of exposed the underlying undercolor, which is like a white color, you know, like a light color, their base color. So yeah, look, I feel for her because you want your first experience to be wonderful and magical, and unfortunately it wasn't for her. I hope that I kind of given an explanation as to what this really is, because I know people might have watched this video and thought, wow, Hermes has had an item that has passed quality control and has this kind of issue. And it's not really a case of that, because it does definitely look to me like it has, this fat has come to the surface and it's given that kind of white cast in the area where it starts to come through first. And even I had this on my Clement's Kelly 32 that I got from Singapore. You could see in between the the crevices of the grains, there was a little bit of white cast. And I cleaned and conditioned that bag and it completely went away, and it felt like a fantastic bag again. So yeah, I think that's about it. I think that I may have made this a little bit of a longer reaction video than I would have liked to. I do agree, I don't disagree with what she did. I do understand why she returned the bag, because you know, it was her first bag and she wasn't very familiar with the artisan side of Hermes, the that craftsmanship, the leather, that kind of stuff. She wasn't, she didn't know, so that's completely fair enough. And a lot of people don't know, so there could have been anyone else would have been in that situation and could very well have returned it. But the other flip side to it is that it also is an easy fix as well, where after you use the bag and love the bag and you send it back for spa, they would clean the bag, and if it was fat had come to the surface, it would clean off. They could also touch it up anyway, and you, like I said before, you could actually make note with the sales associate is that that's an area of concern for you. So if they need to touch it up, if the fat deposit doesn't remove, or if it wasn't fat deposit, like fat coming to the surface, then they would just be able to touch that up anyway. So it was kind of an easy fix. So, but again, you can't take away the fact of how she felt, and she felt disappointed, and that's why she needed to return it, and she didn't want that bad taste in her mouth. So I completely understand why she did return it. That's it, I'm done. That is it. Hopefully that has given you guys a lot of information. I think this is a long video, so I'm signing off now, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.